Welcome to Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. I am Steve Harper, and with me is my co-host, Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing?
I'm so excited about this. I'm great, thanks. You?
I am too. I'm a little concerned about screwing this up because I mean you're a rock star out there in the world. I just I'm so excited. I couldn't even sleep last night. I was so jazzed about this conversation. This is episode 1 of Inquiring Minds, and I am very, very excited to have these conversations. We've been having these conversations for forever. I mean, it seems like we've known
15
each other
years?
our entire lives. And we decided it was your genius to bring this show to fruition, to take some of these conversations to out to the world. And so I'm so thrilled and excited that you put the idea forward and that you were willing to take me along for the ride.
Are you kidding? This is an honor for me. The thing is, we always seem to ask each other the questions that get us thinking beyond our approach to things. And that's why I thought it was a really great idea to have more of these conversations, bring them out to the public, and encourage them to send notes or comments to us to say, this is what I got from it. This is what I'm thinking about this. And that was a great question, and I want to consider what that means in my life. So I really think that this is going to be dynamic. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I'm excited. And every episode that we do will be covering a different topic of interest, something that is, that has piqued your interest or curiosity or mine. And we're just going to have a conversation about it. And we hope that, like you said, we get other people thinking and we want them to join the conversation. So this will be a kind of a slow release. We'll put this out on YouTube and we'll get it out as podcast on the podcast platforms as well. Eventually we'll have some way for people to send in comments to us, but for the in the short term interim, feel free to leave comments on the YouTube videos, and we'll definitely be tracking and monitoring those and getting back to you.
Perfect.
So the conversation that we wanted to have today, what is it?
Who's in your head? That is a question I ask myself. Yeah, who's in your head? That is a question. Think about it for a moment. We're always making decisions. Yep. We're making choices. And then we have these arguments going on in our head. Is it a good idea? Not a good idea? And one of the other questions I ask myself regularly is this decision or choice something that my future self will thank me for? Because who's in my head? If it's not me, then I'm being influenced by opinions, judgments, all of the rest that are encompassing when it comes to how we think about ourselves within the context of our worlds. So who's in your head, Steve?
That's a good, that's a good question. And it, like you said, taking some time to think about it as I think about things that come up in my world, decisions for my companies or strategies I might be taking. It's kind of interesting because I realize that I probably have more people in there than should be in there. There's a lot of voices that you tend to hear about opinions, whether it be from your spouse or whether it be from a friend, coworker, or a trusted colleague. Those things have a tendency to creep in there, right? And then there's this little funny thing that tends to sometimes work against us, which is our own ego. And our ego tends to want to tell us why we can't do something or why that's a silly idea or you would never be successful at that. And here's why. It has no end to telling you what you can't do. And it seems to never want to be motivated to tell you what you can do. And so as I think through it, I realize that my headspace is pretty crowded from time to time. And for a lot of my early years in my career, almost bend at will based on who was in there talking at any given time would ultimately dictate where I went. But I wasn't asking the right question about what I really wanted, what I really needed to be considering or thinking about. So for me, it's a battle constantly to try to avoid that extra noise and make sure that I'm only filtering in the good stuff that really serves me. What about you?
It's really interesting if you think about it for a minute, because the examples that you threw out just now is why I can't do it, why I shouldn't do it, why it's not for me. Yep. I don't hear anything about why I should and how great this is going to be when I do. That is human nature,
yes.
Which is one of the reasons why I asked the question, who's in your head? And if not you, who? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, seriously, even the testers that I work with who are amazing individuals doing extraordinary work, I have to get them beyond themselves and to help them do their work and do it in a way that gets beyond their ego and
Mm-hmm.
beyond their shadow, as I call it, because it stops people dead from actually trying something. And you know what I was looking at yesterday when I was writing my posts for social media, I'm saying to myself, if you don't try and you act out of fear, that's a heck of a lot worse than acting out of regret. Because when you
Mm-hmm.
act out of regret, it stays with you for the rest of your life.
Yep.
And fear, get beyond the fear. Just dust yourself off, get up again. You fail, you try again. You regret, you will go to your deathbed holding on to that regret. It will haunt you forever.
Yep.
Might as well just try it.
Absolutely. Well, so how do you know, for your own purposes, that you're starting to allow the failure conversation to enter into your mindset, or you're potentially allowing somebody else who potentially would tell you you won't be successful or you shouldn't do something, or it won't work? How do you insulate yourself from those situations? I know you're a master at this in terms of understanding the internal dialogue, which is why I'm super excited to ask that question, because I'm really curious how a master like yourself does it.
First of all, the way I look at it is those that are the doubters of this world, tell them to take a hike because that's not what you want. That's the bottom line. They just are energy vampires. They'll suck you dry of energy, enthusiasm, all of that. The question, rather than, how do I get beyond this, is why am I doing this in the first place? What is the meaning to me and those that are impacted by it? And is it worthy enough and worthwhile enough for me to take that chance?
Yeah.
That's the conversation. It's not to minimize it, it's to replace it. And that's the question. Why did you think of that idea in the first place? Why does it matter? And if it does matter, why not try it? And engage other people to help you make it happen. And for those who say, no, you'll never do it, it'll never happen, all of the usuals, just turn around and say, you know what? I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is if you have some great constructive criticism as to how I could do it better. Absolutely.
Oh, I love
For you
that.
to blanketly say, no, you'll never do it, they're not the ones that are going to live with the regret. You're the one who's going to live with the regret. And just tell them, thank you. No, thank you. Not interested.
You make it sound so simple and easy. And really, at the end of the day, I can see people out there hearing those words or watching us on the video and be like, well, that sounds really good. But what happens if that's my spouse or my boss or somebody that I really value? How do you have them handle that situation?
You just look them in the face and tell them what it is that you need from them.
Uh-huh.
Often we don't do that, whether say our spouse.
Yep.
What I need from you is to support me because this really means something special to me, or this is really important to me. How can you help me make it happen? Engage them as your partners.
Yep.
With your boss, often they have information that you don't have, which is why they're saying no.
Yep.
And the question is there in any context a way for me to do this? And will you give me a little bit of free rein so I could try it out? It's not going to cost you anything. Put in my own time, whatever it is. Let me try this, and together we'll see if it makes a difference.
Yep.
You're not always going to get a yes.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that you have to stop yourself from trying in the first place. So ask for what you want, ask for what you need. Tell them, insert yourself in the story and tell them, this is why I want to do this. This is why it is so important to me. And could you imagine a world with this, and this in place? Wouldn't that be extraordinary?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Well, and you kind of touched on something that I think is really important. I don't want to lose sight of, in that you are that's when you're in a situation where you're actually asking for the permission. A lot of times that I think people don't stop long enough to actually consider the possibilities. So they already have these conversations before they actually even ask it, right, in the real world. So a lot of times those voices in our head, who's in our head, are already pre-assumed that they're going to say no, or they won't support it, or they won't agree to it. And so we stop ourselves and defeat ourselves before we ever get going.
Boy, that is so on point, because think about it. How often do even the loving people in our world, our relationships, don't want us to fail, and therefore they're trying to protect us?
Yep.
So don't go there, because if you fail, it's going to be terrible. You're going to feel awful. The protective kind of stance, rather than to say, why don't I help you? Let's see where we go with this. It might just surprise us. So yeah, to ask for what we want means that we need to admit to ourselves that we deserve to at least ask.
Yep.
And, when we imagine that we're going to get all this negativity and all the no's and everything else, that's also a way out for us. That's saying, oh, everybody's going to say you're an idiot for even thinking of that idea. Therefore, I'm not even going to go there, because I don't want them to think I'm wacko and biting off more than I could chew kind of thing. So it's this protective thing for ourselves, because when you speak it, it's real.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that the title of what this show is, Inquiring Minds, actually is a seed of part of your secret weapon against this, which is inquiring within your mind what conversation you're having and what voice you're actually listening to in your mind as you move forward. And if you think about all the decision points that you have throughout the day, if you're a business leader or an entrepreneur, or you're responsible for other people, in a manager's role, think of all just day to day, all the different decision points that, you are faced with, and how often those conversations, those voices that we're hearing in our head, are actually dictating our actions. And maybe one of the really smart things to be putting forward as an inquiring mind is to stop yourself on multiple occasions throughout the day, to check in with yourself and ask yourself, wait a second, is this legitimately what I should be hearing? Is this what I should be doing? Am I making sure that I don't have this outside influence that's impacting me? And if I don't stop to look, I will never know.
That's where the question, who's in your head, comes in.
Yep.
And even if it's, those two people the characters on your shoulders, like, who's in your head? Is it the positive one or the negative one? I probably did the wrong shoulder at the wrong time, but you know what I mean. And, it's asking, if I was able to make a difference in some way, shape, or form that would positively, I always throw that word in, impact multiple people, the environment, whatever you wanted to complete for that sentence, why not try it out?
Yep.
Why not at least start something and let other people engage so they could join in? The questions to ask are what your reality check is, in a way, to say, 1 minute, why am I asking myself all these negative questions?
Yep.
What if it did work? How amazing would that be? And it's also teaching people the framework for how to ask for something when it comes to engagement, partnership, funding, whatever else it is. That's one of the things that I do on a regular basis, right, is to help these amazing young men and women who have these great ideas take those ideas and do something with it, but they need the funding, right? And the support. And if they don't believe in themselves, why would anybody else believe in them?
Yep, without question. No, that's a beautiful point. And that is probably a great way to end this episode, because, you really hit it on the head. You've got to ask those questions. You've got to be inside your own head, asking the right questions, doing the right things for yourself, because you've got to be the advocate for yourself. And I think that's a a really critical factor. And so this is an example of the type of questions that we'll put forward and the type of conversation that we'll have. Your brilliance obviously shines through. I'll just try and add a little bit of sprinkle of ripple inspiration of my own here. But this was great. I love this because I do think that if anybody walks away from anything from this episode, asking, so who's in your head right now? And when you're having those big conversations or those big decision points, stopping and checking in with yourself is a really good first step to take.
Yeah. And ask yourself, if not me, then who else? I'm going to push back with you sort of pushing everything on me about the brilliance on this. I really believe that we have this rapport, that we flesh out these important questions and ideas and thoughts that we need to consider and look at head on.
Absolutely.
So I look forward to many more conversations with you and moving forward.
Me too. I am very excited about this. So Donna, how can someone get in touch with you if they want to put a question or a topic of future consideration for us to look at for an episode? How could they get in touch with you?
The best way is through my website, donnacarlin.com, and it's Karlin. That's the best way. There's a contact form. They could reach out, tell me what they want to discuss, and we might even get on a very quick call if there's something that they're ruminating about.
Yep. Great. And my content is Ripple Central. You can go to my website, Ripple Central, RippleCentral.com. And you can also follow us on social media. My Twitter handle is @RippleOn, RippleOn. And Donna, your Twitter handle is?
_shadow coach, all one word. You could get me there. And I look forward to hearing your comments.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us. We will be back soon with another episode and an important question and a conversation that we're excited about this. So thank you for agreeing to do this, Donna. I'm thrilled to be doing it with you.
Same here.
All right. Yeah. Until next time, take care.
Yep. You too.